Please be seated. Your Excellency, President Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, Honourable Prime Minister Mark Phillips, Honourable Mr. Justice Winston Anderson, President of the Caribbean Court of Justice, Honourable Madam Justice Alison Roxanne McLean George, Chancellor of the Judiciary of Guyana, Honourable Anil Nanlal, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Honourable Gail Teixeira, Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Honourable Hugh Todd, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, other members of Cabinet who are present here this afternoon, the Honourable Mr. Justice Navindra Singh, Chief Justice of Guyana, Honourable Mr. Justice Christopher Arif Bulkan, soon to be appointed to the bench of the Caribbean Court of Justice, Mr. Nigel Hawke, Solicitor General of Guyana, Mrs. Shalimar Ali Haq, Director of Public Prosecutions of Guyana, Dr. Armstrong Alexis, Deputy Secretary General of the Caribbean Community, Mr. Kamal Ramkaran, President of the Bar Association of Guyana and recently appointed Vice President of the Bar of the Organization of Commonwealth Caribbean Bar Associations, senior functionaries of the Judiciary, of the Caribbean Community, and of the Caribbean Court of Justice, family members and relatives of Justice Bulkan, especially his mom. Thank you for being here this afternoon. Invited guests, members of the media, friends all. On behalf of His Excellency President Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, I would like to welcome you to the Office of the President, and more particularly to this extremely significant ceremony, where a Guyanese judge will take the oath of office and be appointed to the bench of the Caribbean Court of Justice, being only the third Guyanese to be so appointed in the 20 years existence of the court. Kindly allow me now to read the proclamation whereby Mr. Justice Christopher Arif Bulkan will be appointed a judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Whereas the Caribbean Court of Justice is an essential part of the effort to deepen and strengthen the Caribbean community through a single market and a single economy, of which the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas provides. And whereas the Caribbean Court of Justice is the highest municipal court in the region that considers and determines appeal in both civil and criminal matters from courts within the jurisdiction of member states of the community, which are parties to the agreement establishing the Caribbean Court of Justice. And whereas paragraph 3.1a of Article 5 of the said agreement provides that the Regional Judicial and Legal Services Commission shall have responsibility for making appointments to the office of judge of the court. And whereas the said commission on the 14th day of March 2025 decided that you, Mr. Justice Christopher Arif Bulkan, be appointed judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice. And whereas paragraph 1 of Article 10 of the agreement provides that the judge of the court shall not enter upon the duties of that office unless he has taken and subscribed the oath of office as set out in Appendix I to the agreement. And whereas paragraph 2 of Article 10 of the agreement provides that the oath of office shall be taken and subscribed before the head of state of any contracting party. And whereas there is occasion for the taking of the oath of office by the Honourable Mr. Justice Christopher Arif Bulkan, having been appointed judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Now therefore, Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, hereby proclaim that on this the 16th day of October 2025, the said Mr. Justice Christopher Arif Bulkan will accede to the office of Judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice. This proclamation is given under the hand and the public seal of the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana on this, the 16th day of October, in the year of our Lord, 2025. May I now invite Mr. Christopher Arif Bulkan to take the oath of office before His Excellency, President Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali.
I, Christopher Arif Bulkan, having been appointed as a judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice, do hereby swear that I will faithfully exercise the office of judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice without fear or favor, affection or ill will, and in accordance with the Code of Judicial Conduct. So help me God. Thank you, sir.
The Honourable Madam Justice Alison Roxanne McLean George, Chancellor of the Judiciary of Guyana, is now invited to offer remarks. She will be followed by the Honourable Mr. Justice Winston Anderson, President of the Caribbean Court of Justice.
Your Excellency, President Mohammed Irfan Ali, Honourable Prime Minister, Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips, Honourable Justice Winston Anderson, President of the Caribbean Court of Justice, Honourable Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Mr. Mobir Anil Nandalal, Senior Counsel, and other Ministers of Government, Justice Christopher Arif Bulkan, Chief Justice Navindra Singh, family, friends, and well-wishers of Justice Bulkan, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and specially invited guests, and I crave your indulgence to adopt the protocol established. I am absolutely thrilled to have been able to witness the swearing in of the Honourable Justice Christopher Arif Bulkan as a judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Justice Bulkan and I were classmates of the graduating class of 1988 of the University of the West Indies and of the class of 1990 of the Hugh Wooding Law School. Our small class of 15 Guyanese students has done extremely well, with Justice Bulkan's appointment being a particular source of pride for us, his classmates. And I acknowledge Mrs. Shalimar Ali Haq, Senior Counsel, Director of Public Prosecutions of Guyana, in the audience. Justice Bulkan was known to be a brilliant student, and he continued in this trajectory throughout his career. We began our legal careers at the chambers of the Director of Public Prosecutions here in Guyana. We prosecuted our first case together before the High Court. I recall that his incisive cross-examination revealed that a defense witness was most definitely a stranger to the truth. While I remained at the DPP's chambers, Justice Bulkan joined the magistracy, adding to his experience as a prosecutor the first layer of the foundation as a judicial officer that has led to this ceremony. His humility and calm, friendly personality belie his sharp wit and masterful command of the English language, which is evident in his judgments and academic publications. With a doctorate in law, he brings to the CCJ bench many years of experience as a regional and international champion of human rights, years of experience as a lecturer at the University of Guyana and at the University of the West Indies, as a Justice of Appeal in Guyana and Belize, and as a member of regional and international bodies. Therefore, speaking on behalf of the judicial officers of Guyana, we believe beyond a reasonable doubt that Justice Bulkan will be an asset to the CCJ, our apex court. Justice Bulkan, we look forward to your judgments, which will shape our jurisprudence and the future of the court, more so at this time when the legal landscape is evolving rapidly, both substantively and procedurally. We are assured that in this, the 20th year of the CCJ, that your appointment builds on the legacy of the court and secures and fortifies the continued commitment of the court to excellence. We as a nation are proud of your achievements, proud of your elevation as the third Guyanese to the highest court of our region, following in the illustrious footsteps of Justice Desiree Bernard and Justice Duke Pollard, both of blessed memory. So to my friend, Justice Christopher Arif Bulkan, heartiest congratulations and God's richest blessings for your tenure on the bench of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Thank you.
Permit me to adopt the protocol, which has been so well established earlier, but to nonetheless, of course, recognize His Excellency, Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, the Honourable Brigadier Retired Mark Phillips, Prime Minister of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, the Honourable Madam Justice Roxanne George, Acting Chancellor of the Judiciary of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, the Honourable Mr. Justice Arif Bulkan, now a judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice, the Honourable Mahabir Nandlal, Attorney General of and Minister of Legal Affairs of Guyana, and all other distinguished ladies and gentlemen. The list is very long. I crave your indulgence in adopting the protocol issued earlier. I wish to wish you all a good afternoon. It is my pleasure to be here once again in Guyana and to be here for this solemn but very happy occasion. Attorney, academic, author, international law expert, advocate, and judge. These are just a few of the many distinguished roles for which Dr. Christopher Arif Bulkan is known and respected throughout the legal profession. Today marks a special day for him and for us at the Caribbean Court of Justice as we welcome him to the bench as a judge of the CCJ. Justice Bulkan joins us as the third judge to hail from the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, after two notable jurists, as we heard, Mr. Justice Duke Pollard and Madam Justice Desiree Bernard. As in their cases, his joining us marks a highly valuable addition to our bench. The responsibility for the selection and appointment of both judges and court staff rests with the Regional Judicial and Legal Services Commission, the RJLSC, an independent and non-political body. The quality and caliber of the appointee is clearly guided by the agreement establishing the CCJ. Article 4 of that agreement outlines the criteria which must be possessed by a person appointed to hold the office of judge of the court. Extensive judicial experience or extensive experience in the practice or teaching of law, with due consideration of the appointee's moral character, intellectual and analytical ability, sound judgment, integrity, and understanding of people and society. With my pending elevation to the presidency of the CCJ, which was to follow the retirement of President Saunders in July 2025. The Commission in March 2025 undertook to select a suitable replacement. The Commission identified and selected someone who possesses the qualities codified in Article 4 mentioned earlier, and whose professional journey is one which embodies excellence and a strong sense of justice. Justice Bulkan has served in various capacities in his home country of Guyana, regionally and internationally. After his admission to the bar, he served in the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions, rising to the position of Assistant Director of Public Prosecutions. Thereafter, he served as a judge of the Court of Appeal of Guyana, and most recently as a judge of the Court of Appeal of Belize. From 2008 to 2022, he taught at the Faculty of Law of the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill, and thereafter at the St. Augustine campus, serving both as senior lecturer and deputy dean. As advocate, he has been recognized for his work in human rights in the region, fighting for the rights of indigenous peoples and the marginalized, and for environmental rights. From 2019 to 2022, he served as member and vice chair on the United Nations Human Rights Committee. In 2023, he was the first Guyanese national to be elected to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. Since January 2024, he has been serving on the commission as a rapporteur on the rights of indigenous peoples. In addition to his judicial, teaching, and advocacy work, Justice Bulkan has authored numerous articles, peer-reviewed articles, and books, including The Survival of Indigenous Rights in Guyana, 2012, and The Fundamentals of Caribbean Constitutional Law, 2021, which he co-authored with Professor Tracy Robinson in our audience and former president of the CCJ, Justice Adrian Saunders. Justice Bulkan's work reflects his deep commitment and unwavering dedication to the principles of social justice, equality, and of the rule of law. These attributes, alongside his wisdom, depth of knowledge, and wealth of experience, will serve him in good stead as he embarks on service at the highest judicial level in our region. The people of Guyana have good reason to be proud of their son and of his elevation to the CCJ. On behalf of the bench, management, and staff of the court, I extend my heartiest congratulations to you, Justice Bulkan. We look forward to the lasting contributions that you will make to the court and continue to make to the region. Thank you.
I now invite Justice Bulkan, newly appointed judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice, to respond.
All protocols having been observed, though permit me to acknowledge and greet His Excellency, President Mohamed Irfan Ali, His Excellency, the Prime Minister, Brigadier Phillips, the Honourable Justice Anderson, President of the CCJ, the Honourable Roxanne George, Acting Chancellor of the Judiciary of Guyana, and other members of the Judiciary, the Honourable Attorney General, Minister Gail Teixeira, and other members of the Cabinet. My dear family and friends here today, distinguished guests, all of you following, all those who might be following online, members of the media, good afternoon, everyone. And right at the outset, let me say to the dear Chancellor and the President of the CCJ how moved and touched I am by your very generous remarks. At an OAS panel discussion, which I took part in last year, the moderator, who didn't know me, but only saw my CV in preparation for the event, introduced me to the audience as a Caribbean man. It was the first time that I was ever described that way, and I must confess to a degree of some pride on hearing that description. It's not untrue. I've lived and worked and studied in various capacities in multiple countries of the Caribbean. But I guess my visceral reaction to hearing that was triggered by that overt connection being made and what it visibly signified in terms of belonging somewhere. For much of the same reasons, today's swearing in as a judge of the CCJ is deeply meaningful to me. Not because of any sense of personal accomplishment, because I am fully aware of the extensive talent in this region and how my selection is as much good fortune or good timing as anything else. Rather, I am acutely conscious of what this court represents in terms of decolonization and regional integration, and it is an honor and privilege to have the opportunity to participate in this journey. I ask Excellencies for your indulgence in allowing me to briefly pay tribute to the formidable strides the CCJ has made in its relatively short lifetime under the stewardship of successive giants as presidents, to explain more fully why joining its ranks today resonates so deeply with me. Time permits, don't be afraid, Chancellor, time permits no more than a few brief observations, and so I will content myself with highlighting just 4 trends, as I have observed. First, the CCJ has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to the promotion of human rights, not as an ideological imperative, but for its substantive value. Often, the protection of human rights is perceived as a naive undertaking, at best a nuisance, at worst a distraction from development, or a hindrance to citizen security. We must all be familiar with calls for condign punishments, emergency police powers, or for respecting and privileging private property above all else. However, this court has not mechanically adopted such unreflective narratives, and instead, in cases like Joseph and Boyce from Barbados, Maya Leaders Alliance, and a slew of sentencing decisions of which the current president, and the late Justice Witt were the chief architects, has built an enlightened jurisprudence that seeks to overcome hierarchies and promote substantive justice, notwithstanding populist pressures and deeply rooted societal prejudices. Second, the CCJ has consistently upheld democratic values, good governance, and the rule of law. This is not news to anyone in Guyana, where the court has played such a consequential role in mediating between intractable political foes. But beyond our context here, in cases like BCB Holdings, Belize Bar Association, and Richardson and the AG, among many others, this court has guarded against executive overreach, been attentive to the demands of judicial independence, and has grappled with the meaning of democracy. It has done all that with impressive technical skill. Third, and related to the above, the court's ethos espouses thoroughly egalitarian values, in that social status, economic standing, or political clout has never been a predictor of outcome. Decisions like Skerritt and Defoe, Mayan King, Marin and the AG, Maya Leaders Alliance, Wilson and the King, and McEwen and the AG, many more, demonstrate that this court is prepared to dispense justice according to the law and context, regardless whether the parties are prime ministers, former presidents, sitting or former politicians, vulnerable indigenous communities, trans sex workers, or seasonal laborers, and doing so coherently across disciplines of criminal law, employment law, contract law, and constitutional law. In other words, privilege and power have never been a guarantor of success at the CCJ, and that should mean a lot to the people of this region. Lastly, the CCJ methodologies reveal a dynamism and agility in service of substantive justice. There are the obvious examples, such as its liberal standing rules, which are complemented by its refusal to award punitive costs in public interest litigation, mirrored by or cemented by its innovative approach to the eviscerating savings law clause adopted in Nervase and Severin. Combined, these ensure access to justice in real terms. Beyond these obvious examples, however, the CCJ has been expansive in its interpretive techniques. This has involved, for example, resistance to arid procedural technicalities, paying attention to history and context, and a regard for international norms, as when the court was confronted with interpreting rape legislation in Barbados quite recently, or indigenous land rights in Belize. I can think of no more eloquent endorsement of the court's techniques than that of Gabrielle Elliott Williams of Mona Law, who stated in a comment on the main judgment in Nicholson that, and I quote her, "The court rejects the idea of law as neutral. It encourages judges to consider methods, be alert to the possibility of unconscious bias. It urges that judges cannot afford to be agnostic on the results that might flow from their interpretive methodology." These are some of the reasons why, for me, it is a deep honor to be joining this court. At the same time, the journey towards full independence is not over, whether because of the fact that local elites sometimes merely replace foreign ones, or an inability in the region to move away from extractivist models of income generation, or just generally the persistence of colonial hierarchies and prejudices, as pointed out only today in the press by UG economist Dr. Singh. Accession to the CCJ is thus a regional imperative, and not just for the practical benefits, though that's important, practical benefits like access to justice, which President Anderson only last week affirmed, but also because of what it means for our self-determination in the region, as Professor Tracy Robinson consistently reminds us. As the court continues to fashion a truly Caribbean jurisprudence, mindful of our shared history and values, and responsive to our needs in the Caribbean, hopefully the day will soon come when there will be complete accession by all. I don't have much time left, but I wish to pay tribute to the enormous debt that I owe to family, friends, colleagues, Guyana, my own country, and indeed this region, which has repeatedly invested in me. Indeed, I must also acknowledge the Canadian Commonwealth Scholarship Program, which generously funded my doctoral studies in Indigenous rights 2 decades ago. But starting, I must first and foremost express my gratitude to my mother, whom, as I've said before, has been both mother and father to me. But I'm also the beneficiary of the enormous sacrifices of my father, who died far too young, and as well the consistent care of my 6 older siblings. The public service and the values espoused by my siblings and my close relatives come directly from my mother. And to her I say thank you very much for your consistent example in our lives. I thank especially to my sister Annette and brother-in-law Joe, and my friends Joel and David, all of whom traveled to Guyana today for this ceremony. I regret that my siblings, Janet and Ronald, could not be here in person, but I'm glad that they are able to follow remotely. This month marks 35 years since I've been called to the bar. And over the course of that very long period, I have benefited from the advice, support, mentorship, and camaraderie of many colleagues. I take a risk by naming names, but I do wish to acknowledge and thank a few, such as my friends from UWI, in particular Douglas Mendez and the URAP team, and URAP adjacent colleagues like Roberta Clark and Elisa Trotz. It means the world to me that both Professor Tracy Robinson and Justice Westman James journeyed from Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago to share this moment with me. Westman flew in from Paris yesterday. Tracy leaves for Yale University tomorrow. So I know that this is a huge sacrifice. Thank you so much. I'm also very grateful to Belize, which has been my professional base for the last few years. Although short, that time has been professionally and personally very rewarding. And I thank my colleagues on the bench there, as well, indeed, the wider legal community for their very warm embrace of me and all of the effusive expressions of support and congratulations I had from them when leaving. Back home in Guyana, there are 3 people in particular who have played outsized roles in my professional life, whom I'd like to acknowledge. 2 of them are no longer here, and I take a moment to honor them. Professor Rudy James, who was both an intellectual and moral guide, and who was completely responsible for what is now my interlude in the academy, as well as Ian Chang, former Director of Public Prosecutions, who was my boss for many years at the Chambers. The third is Justice Yonette Cummings, who is literally responsible for me being here today. Former Acting Chancellor Cummings prevailed over months of indecision by me in 2017 by insisting that I apply to the Court of Appeal, even though I didn't see myself as qualified or fit. She was probably more interested in building a solid independent judiciary than my own personal trajectory. But it was that push that put me on this career path. So I thank her most sincerely for her faith in me and for her mentorship and pushing me onto this course, which has led me here today. Finally, to the Office of the Executive President and staff, as well as to the Registrar and staff of the CCJ, my sincere thanks to you for all your labor in organizing today's ceremony. I thank as well my school friend and current Acting Chancellor, Justice Roxanne George, for all of her support over the years. As I remember that case well, Roxanne. And you left out many of the more salacious details during that cross-examination, including of how then Senior Counsel Valls was so surprised at how he underestimated both of us. But I thank you for your many years of friendship, and in particular today, your generosity in hosting the reception in honor of this occasion. There are many more who have guided me along the way. As I said, it's been 35 years, and to whom I feel deeply appreciative. Ultimately, though, I know that the best way for me to repay this debt including to the Regional Judicial and Legal Services Commission, which made this selection and took a chance on me, is by what comes after today. Be assured, ladies and gentlemen, and all the people in the region, that I am committed to performing my functions with competence, efficiency, and unwavering integrity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justice Bulkan. The honor is now mine to invite His Excellency President Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali to address us.
Thank you very much. Please have your seat. Allow me first to once again congratulate Justice Christopher Arif Bulkan on taking the oath of office as Judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Justice Anderson, President of the Court, our dear Chancellor, Prime Minister, Attorney General, Chief Justice, members of Cabinet, or DPP, President of the Bar, and every distinguished man and woman, members of the media, good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is the day that the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. It is my honor to extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to the Honourable Mr. Justice Winston Anderson, President of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Justice Anderson, we are deeply honored by your presence in Guyana. Your leadership at the helm of this distinguished regional institution stands as a tribute to your scholarship, integrity, and devotion to the rule of law. Having you with us today is both a privilege and a powerful reminder of the unity and purpose that the Caribbean Court of Justice embodies for all of our peoples. Through the court's seat in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, we're immensely grateful that the taking of the oath of office of the court's newest judge is being held here in Guyana, the land of Justice Bulkan's birth and the headquarters of the CARICOM community. Justice Anderson, I assure you and the Caribbean community that the Caribbean Court of Justice will and must always have a home. And Guyana stands ready and able to be that foundational pillar that will ensure the Caribbean Court of Justice continue to lead and lead with distinction. This gesture gives profound meaning to the occasion, grounding the court in the very hearts and homes of the Caribbean people it serves. Hosting this ceremony here provides a living expression of the court's reach and roots across the region. It reaffirms that the CCJ is not an abstraction, but a vibrant Caribbean institution, sustained by Caribbean intellect and inspired by Caribbean pride. Among the many institutions born of our regional integration movement, few inspire greater pride than the Caribbean Court of Justice. The CCJ stands as one of the finest achievements of the Caribbean community. The CCJ represents a proud creation of our collective vision, designed and built to serve the needs of our own societies. The CCJ is more than a court. It is a declaration of confidence in ourselves. It symbolizes the maturity of our independence. It symbolizes the maturity of our independence and the depth of our capacity to administer justice according to our own laws, in our own voice, and through our own juris. The path to its creation was neither short nor easy. The journey toward the establishment of the CCJ mirrors the wider Caribbean struggle for sovereignty and self-determination. The idea of a regional court, of a regional final court, grew out of decades of post-colonial legal and political reflection. An idea that called upon us to complete our independence, not only in government and economy, but also in our systems of justice. It was taken up formally within CARICOM, reflecting the shared desire of regional leaders to chart our own judicial destiny. At the 6th meeting of the Commonwealth Caribbean Heads of Government, held in Kingston, Jamaica, in April 1970, the proposal for a regional court was first placed on the table. The conference, in a gesture of historic foresight, requested the attorneys generals of the region to examine the implications of moving away from the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council and to explore the creation of a Caribbean appellate court. The single step planted the seed of what would eventually become the Caribbean Court of Justice. Over the decades that followed, through the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s, this idea was refined by the Committee of Attorneys General, regional bar associations, and expert bodies. They examined not only the legal design of such a court, but also its constitutional significance and its role in shaping Caribbean jurisprudence. The discussions were far from theoretical. They represented the steady labor of regional minds determined to give form and substance to the Caribbean ideal of self-governance under law. At the 10th meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government in 1989, the heads noted that the progress made toward establishing the court and agreed to the creation of a Regional Judicial and Legal Services Commission, a mechanism to guarantee the independence of the appointment process and to safeguard the court's integrity. This was a pivotal decision, ensuring that the CCJ would stand above politics, beholden only to the law. The call for a regional court of appeal was given new urgency and eloquence by the West Indian Commission's 1992 report, A Time for Action. That report stated without a doubt that the establishment of a Caribbean Court of Appeal was fundamental to the process of regional integration. It recommended a court with both original jurisdiction to interpret and apply the Treaty of Chaguaramas and appellate jurisdiction to serve as the region's final court of appeal. The Commission's words rang with confidence. The Caribbean, it declared, possessed the wisdom, the scholarship, and the integrity to maintain a court equal in stature to the Privy Council. After years of deliberation, the political will of the region converged. The vision of 1970 became reality in 2001, when the agreement establishing the Caribbean Court of Justice was signed on the 14th of February 2001, and the court was inaugurated in April 2005. This was a defining moment in Caribbean history. The CCJ thus stands not merely as a judicial body, but as a monument to regional collaboration and self-determination. This is our court, the region's court. The Cooperative Republic of Guyana is proud to have been among the earliest states to embrace the court and to place our full confidence in its judgments. We have accepted the CCJ as our final appellate court, recognizing in it the highest expression of judicial independence and regional integrity. We view it as both a protector of justice and a custodian of Caribbean sovereignty. Hosting this ceremony today in Guyana is therefore a moment of immense pride. It reminds us that the CCJ belongs to every citizen of the Caribbean community, to every island and mainland territory that has contributed to its creation and sustains its purpose. It reminds us that justice in the Caribbean does not flow from a distant metropole, but from within the Caribbean itself, from our own conscience, culture, and commitment to fairness. We look forward to the day when all members of the Caribbean community will surmount the constitutional, legislative, and political hurdles that still stand in the way of fully embracing the Caribbean Court of Justice as their final court of appeal. That day must come, and it must come sooner rather than later, for it will make the completion of a journey that began with independence itself. When every member state entrusts its highest judicial authority to the CCJ, we will, at last, realize the full promise of Caribbean sovereignty. Justice dispensed by our own, grounded in our own values, and guided by the collective wisdom of our region. Today's ceremony carries added significance because we gather to witness the swearing in of one of Guyana's distinguished sons, Dr. Christopher Arif Bulkan. As a judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice, this is an occasion of national pride and regional celebration. Dr. Bulkan is a man of intellect. His career is a model of public service. He has served his country in multiple capacities within the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, as a magistrate, as a Justice of Appeal in the Court of Appeal of Guyana. In addition to his judicial service, Dr. Bulkan has made invaluable contributions as a scholar and teacher, advancing the study of constitutional, human rights, and administrative law. Dr. Bulkan comes from a family whose contribution to public life are well known. I take this time to acknowledge his mother, and it's the greatest pride and blessing to have your mother with you on another significant aspect of your life journey. I think we should. I understand this because in faith I'm taught that paradise lies at the feet of thy mother. Guyana celebrates Justice Bulkan today and hails his appointment to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Justice Bulkan's appointment to the Caribbean Court of Justice is both a personal triumph and a national honor. We are certain that we will bring to the court the same clarity of thought, depth of analysis, and balance of judgment that have characterized his distinguished career. As he takes up this new and solemn responsibility, we wish him a successful tenure. May his service further strengthen the CCJ's standing as a symbol of regional excellence and an enduring demonstration to the Caribbean's belief in itself. Congratulations, Justice Christopher Arif Bulkan. Guyana and the Caribbean salute you. Your elevation honors your family, your country, and the noble ideal of Caribbean justice that the CCJ represents. I thank you all, and God bless you.